I've got it. I just shared with my Zoom since I'm going to be operating that. I need to join as a panelist though. So who's running the Zoom?
I think the Zoom is off of yours. So if you could do the Zoom and have the presentations on here, yeah, you should be the host.
Okay, yeah. I've got an attendee.
You want?
Yeah.
Oh, no, that's okay. I'll just leave that. But I did log on to the internet waiver. Can you pull up the 502 Surreos for the presentation over email me, and then I'll pull it up.
Yeah, I actually have it on the flash. So I'm just.
Oh, okay. Great. Yeah, let me make sure I have the latest and greatest. Yeah, oh, okay, that was saved at 4:45, yeah.
Yeah, and then this is Ramon, who's gonna be our IT this evening.
Hi, Ramon. Thank you so much.
And then you did the record?
Yeah. Are we, it's 5:37. So. Right.
Because it's the same type as an existing.
Right. Exactly. Oh, no, I think we have it on the flash drive, don't worry about it.
Okay, you don't need it.
I mean, as long as it's the one from 4:45.
Yeah.
We're good.
Yeah, no, I think everything that flash, just in case we did have problems with connection.
I need to.
Heather?
Yes. Melissa's gonna be listening to the recording. She's not. So Kyle is gonna be swearing people in. Yeah. And this is Kyle Hibner. He's the Frank for the nice. He's our assistant city attorney.
We're just gonna use the flash drive.
Okay.
And you're going first, correct?
Let's look at the agenda. Well, Heather goes first with all this.
Okay.
The grants and. Okay.
Once you go there, Okay.
And then if I get stuck.
Chair, we are ready to proceed.
Thank you. Board members, turn on your mics, please. And good evening, everyone, and welcome to this meeting of the Historic Districts Review Board. Today we are May 23rd, 2023. And Melissa is not here, but that's our recorder, our stenographer. But she is in charge of doing minutes anyway, because we're going to be recording. And so, who's doing roll call?
That would be Amanda Romero, and she's
Amanda, thank you. If you could do roll call, please.
Thank you, Chair Rios. Chair Rios,
Here,
Vice Chair Guida,
Here.
Member Benvenu,
I think he's coming, it's probably a little bit late.
Member Berkeley,
Excuse,
Member Bishai. Here. Member Aguilar Madonna.
here.
Madam Chair, you have one.
Thank you very much. Are there any changes to the agenda? If so, please let us know what they are.
Yes, Chair Rios, there are some changes to the agenda. Item number 330 East Palace Avenue, case 2023-6788 is withdrawn. Item number 4, 2023-6490 1596 Canyon Road is postponed. Item number 5, 2023-6565 1600 Canyon Road is postponed. And item number 7, 2023-6742 110 West Burger Street is withdrawn.
So that leaves us with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, thank you. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as just amended?
Guida moves to approve as amended.
Roll call vote, please.
Vice Chair Guida,
Yes.
Member Aguilar Madonna,
Yes.
Member Bishai.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes. Excuse me.
We're not quite sure what we're supposed to do. We're here to, voice our concern on a structure. Is that
That'll be-
something-
You were being called on matters from the floor.
But nobody knows we're here, so.
We have signs on the City Hall building.
Thank you, great.
Okay. So, we have minutes of May 9, 2023. Are there any changes to these minutes, board members? I do have a change on page 16 under my comments. 1915, I'll put it read 1957. That's when the styles ordinance was adopted. Any other changes? And Heather, did you happen to have member Benvenu's phone number? I didn't see anything on the doors that indicated that we were supposed to be here.
I will try and contact her.
Okay, thank you. We have no findings of that. Did I call for roll call?
No.
That roll call vote, please.
We need a motion.
And motion, please.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as amended.
And do I hear a second? I'd love to join a second. Thank you. Roll call vote, please.
Vice Chair Guida,
Yes.
Member Bishai.
Abstain.
Member Aguilar Madonna,
Yes.
and Chair Rios.
Yes. We have no findings of fact and conclusions of law on this agenda. So we'll move on to matters from the public. If there is anyone here that wishes to express themselves in reference to any concerns they might have, you can come before, you can come to the podium at this time.
This is the podium. I need to swear you in. I don't think.
So from matters from the public, you do need to get sworn in. If you'll just state your name.
Adam Johnson, Director of the Old Santa Fe Association. I want to give a big thank you and sort of a gesture of appreciation to staff of HPD, to the H board members who were able to attend the Historic Preservation Awards last Thursday. I thought it was a smashing success. And I just wanted to sort of say how pleased I was with the whole event. I do want to make a small note that a couple of my members are having trouble getting online. I know that we're in a different venue, so there's a lot of sort of moving about and the chaos in that. But if we could get the Zoom up, that would be helpful. I imagine some of them want to speak during particular cases. But again, thank you so much. I thought the awards were a big success. So thank you.
Thank you. We did have a big turnout and it was good. I do have to say that someone called me afterwards and said, perhaps, the venue is not the best because I don't know if people were not speaking into the mic, and I might remind everyone this evening, when you come to the podium, please speak right into that mic so everyone can hear you. And that evening, people were not speaking into the mic, unfortunately. And also, I was told that because it's all on one level, that you're sitting, wherever you might be sitting, you might not be, if you were not towards the front, you could not see the speaker.
We may have outgrown the venue, and
So,
St. Francis Auditorium, which Heather and I were at, for the State Historic Preservation Awards the next day, would be a good one. So, thank you.
thank you very much. Anyone else, please come forward, state your name and state your concern.
Hello, my name is Joan Baker, and I have lived in Santa Fe for 40 years. And about 23 years ago, I built a house at 414 San Antonio Street. I followed the rules, the regulations. I had great respect for Santa Fe and all that it stood for as far as architectural and et cetera. And I realized I was in a very much a historic section of Santa Fe. I'm happy to say that Cecilia Rio and the historic review gave the house an award for fitting in the best into Santa Fe. That was a great moment for me and my architect. I am here, my concern and many neighbors' concern, and I might add realtors, et cetera, are very concerned about the house 619 at Zekia Madre. It's not well, the house is there, but there's an addition being made that is a garage or a studio. I'm really not quite sure.
I believe that's a garage, correct?
Well, I think the owner has now said it's a studio. I don't understand, frankly. As much as I wanted to fit into the architectural integrity, beauty of that area, I do not feel that this structure does fit in. It is at the corner of the lot. There's a house there. It's at the corner of Calle Corvo and Zekia Madre. It's right there, kind of facing everyone, the street, the school across the street. And first of all, I guess my question was, why was this structure built right there and why not push it back? However, there's much more about this structure that is, I find, and many people find very offensive. Its height is very high. It's sort of in your face, for lack of a better term. And it's not even at the height of the house behind it. So it is also, it's bulky, it seems very long. I am wondering, all of us have wondered, how this got passed by the historic, which we all have great respect for. And frankly, we all have tremendous trust in you for seeing that something is a behemoth, kind of. I can't think of a better word, right in our face. We don't know if a traffic study had been done. We don't know how this is possible. We have looked at, my colleagues and I have looked at minutes in the past. Somehow this was passed. And all I can say is, and it's also a dangerous it's not an intersection, but Tiny Corvo goes on to St. Madre. And you can't, it's very difficult to see right now about cars coming, school buses coming. This is making it much worse. I have no idea if anything can be rectified about this, if you can put a pause on this. Some of the building of this structure has already gone up. I just want to say I really trust the H board, but this has been a dent in that trust for, I'd say at least 25 people have been complaining. And thank you for listening.
Thank you, Ms. Baker. I do believe that this case was heard, in April of 2022. I personally was not, at the hearing at that time, but it was properly noticed. And if I'm saying anything that is incorrect, if staff or a board member that is familiar with the case could correct me. I believe it was properly noticed. We have those big yellow signs that indicate that a hearing is going to take place. It tells you when and where, and that would have been the appropriate time. I don't know why the neighbors didn't see that or what the scoop was at that time.
I have no idea. Unfortunately, I was not here. But many people said, but don't we get something in writing to neighbors who are very close? I mean, this is in the heart of the historic district. I have no idea how this got passed. I know it was passed. I'm very disappointed. It's inappropriate. I'm just, maybe I shouldn't say these words like that, but if you all came and looked, I think you'd say, my God, how did this happen? So I know it was passed. I don't know if there's anything we can do about it. But maybe in the future, we can ask that something is really looked at even more closely.
Yeah, there is a process, not anymore, but, because it's too late, but if someone disagrees with the decision that this board renders, you can appeal to the city council.
Yes,
But unfortunately, well, if you were out of town, if people aren't noticing and following.
I don't think
through-
people were there. I don't know where that yellow sign was. Maybe it was right there. People said, I don't know. I didn't
It
know.
has to be placed where it is noticeable. And
Something went wrong, awry. Something really did. I think if all of you went and looked, you would think the same thing. And I wish I could change it. I wish I was here for that meeting, and I wasn't, and several people, I guess, weren't also, but I feel it's a terrible thing.
well, thank you for your concerns and your comments. And I will ask if any board members wanted to make any kind of a statement in reference to that case. And it appears not. Is, anyone else from the public wishing to come forward? Mr. Martinez?
Richard Martinez. The project that was just discussed is in process. The wall is going to be changed. The building is out of the visibility triangle for the two streets that is dictated by the city. And so I beg everyone's patience with the project. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Martinez. Anyone else wishing to comment on anything that you might have a concern about in the comment? It appears not. Anyone on Zoom?
No hands are raised, Chair.
I'm sorry. Pardon?
Would you like to say something?
Yes, please come forward. And did you say no one is on Zoom?
No hands are raised.
Okay, thank you.
My name is Andre Smith. I live on San Antonio Street. I think an answer to the yellow sign. When the yellow sign goes up, people do notice, but it has the first meeting date. It doesn't have subsequent meetings. And I think one thing that people are disappointed was the initial meeting did not have anything other than the desire to build a 430 square foot garage and to remove some material from a wall. Everything else that was given, photographs, all of that were in reference to the previous structure that's sitting there. It all made sense. And people were not alarmed, and I think that's where this all started. It took us by surprise. And that's a problem for us, you know, we admit it's there. And I think people just want to say, it would have been nice to have a little more oversight on this particular place because of the school. We've always had a problem at that intersection. It's dangerous. And you have to pull far forward to cross there. You cannot see down. The Sapia Madre doesn't go perfectly perpendicular. It goes like this. And it's, there's a wall, but that wall traditionally transitions to 3 feet. And it's, what was allowed is 4'9". That's a problem. What the owner asked for was 6 feet. And what ended up on Calle Corvo starts at 4'9", goes to over 12 feet, continues, drops to higher than what's been allowed on the Sapia Madre and to the end of the property. So you have what's essentially kind of the Great Wall of China. So I think that's where the visceral sort of upsetness comes from. And missing out on the plans that were presented in May was really unfortunate. But that's when the actual plans, elevations, drawings, all of what was really going to happen were presented. And that's our excuse. It's an excuse. What can I tell you? So what we're doing now is talking about what's the solution? It's there. And one of the solutions we have in mind is to approach the city to put in stop signs now at that intersection, because people speed on the Sapia Madre, they really do. They go 35 miles an hour very often. Asking to stop at that intersection would really, really help. And I really appreciate the statement that bear with us. I think that's wonderful. And I do believe that neighbors will bear with you to take another look and figure out how to open up a visual corridor so nobody gets hurt. That's really where we are. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Anyone else in this audience? No one. And no one else on Zoom, correct?
That is correct.
We'll move on to staff communications. Staff, you have anything to tell us?
At this point, Chair Rios, I do not, other than just to thank the H board for their participation in the award ceremony. It was a great event, as indicated by Adam from the Old Santa Fe Association. It was a great partnership. For the city awards themselves, we will be having a presentation on May 31st. That's next Wednesday. At the beginning of the agenda, the council agenda, to highlight the great work of the people that have done in our community. Not everyone needs to be there, but it would be nice if we have some H board members present at that time.
Thank you. We'll move on to old business, and we have one case under old business, and that's Heather's. And before we move on, if anyone in the audience wishes to comment on the case, we will have a 2-minute limit, and Amanda can help you with this. Raise your hand or ping or do something to let us know that the 2 minutes are up. And also, if you disagree with the decision that this board renders, you do have the option to appeal. You would be appealing to the city council, and that would be, you have up to 15 days after the findings and conclusions have been adopted and approved. So with that being said, we'll move on to this case, which is located at 502 Cerrillos Road. This is in the historic transition district. Heather?
Thank you, Chair. As Chair Rios mentioned, this is in the historic transition district, which is in a part of town that's sort of right on the edge of the historic district. This part of town also is characterized as you saw with this resurvey efforts as of recent, is characterized by a mix of commercial and residential development. Most everything has become commercial as of now with offices and so on, but there was traditionally a mix of commercial and residential. This is the aerial of the site, illustrated with the blue arrow. You can see that there's parking at the front and then a series of roof forms illustrating the evolution of the building over time. It is located immediately adjacent to the Santa Fe Motel to the south. There's a Korean restaurant to the north, which was the old Pizza Hut. And then at that sort of intersection with Cerritos, Sandoval and Manhattan Avenue. It's in that sort of mess of an intersection. This is the front elevation, that east elevation of the existing structure. As was illustrated on the first slide, the structure has evolved over time, and the most recently it was a retail space for Soundlook. So with reference to the evolution of the building, in discussions with the applicant, there's been different types of construction illustrating the different building iterations. And so at the front was the original building, which was approximately 765 square feet, and it has 8-foot ceilings. And I can defer to the applicant to go into further detail, but in the 1980s, there was a 2,600 square foot addition with the 11-foot ceiling, so it's somewhat different. I did a little bit of map research as well. So in 1912, in the King's map, the area highlighted in red immediately adjacent to Manhattan Street, there was a structure there, but it does not have the same footprint as what is there today. And in 1930, not much had changed. There was still a structure of adobe construction illustrated there, plus a shed. In 1942, the same structure was there, but you could see the surroundings were changing. So there was the DeVargas tourist camp, and then there was another tourist camp located on the site of the Santa Fe Motel, or Motel Santa Fe, that's immediately adjacent to this property. And there was some additional development that happened further to the west on Manhattan Avenue. This is a 1957 aerial showing roughly the same footprint as was illustrated in the 1942 Sanborn map. And then in 1971, by 1971, the lot was vacant. So that original structure no longer existed on that corner. And it seems to the tourist camp had converted into a mobile home park or something to the west. In 1981, you can see the rough footprint of the building that exists today. So just going to the site plan, you can see that the footprint is the same with the step backs and the portal at the front. It's difficult to see in the area with some parking as well at the front. Furthermore, there's parking to the rear and to the south of the property. There's a drive that is accessed off of West Manhattan Street, but the primary entrance is on the east elevation. This is an existing and proposed site plan. So previously the applicant was proposing to enclose the front portal. The applicant has withdrawn that request, but just to point out on the site plan, currently there's a parking lot that's not well marked. They will be installing an ADA accessible parking space to allow for those with disabilities to access the front door, which will be moved over. The primary entrance right now is at the portal, and it will be moved over to where those two windows are on the existing elevation today. And an illustration of the floor plan, you can see the different changes that have occurred on the inside according to use, different types of uses. And the applicant has provided a floor plan illustrating the proposed distillery use. So this is an update to the previous proposal. So the existing east elevation illustrates the portal and the two windows. Like I said previously, there will be two doors that will be recessed, and the existing parapet will be increased in height both here at this mast, but also where the existing portal is located. so as to hide or conceal some mechanical units. The existing portal will remain unenclosed, and steel fence is proposed in front of it. Pursuant to comments made by the HDRB in a previous hearing, the yard wall that would enclose the terrace area is going to be stucco finish, concrete masonry unit, and the stucco finish will be L-ray buckskin, similar to what the building will have. And the existing north elevation, you can see the steps. There's no formal terrace as of now. And the proposed north elevation, you can see window replacement as well as the addition of a door to that terrace area. Furthermore, there's an addition of a pergola with latias on the top for and steel members for the terrace area for shading purposes. These are the colors that are proposed by the applicant. Previously, the HDRB had concern regarding metal finishes, and the large panels of metal have gone away and are not being proposed as part of this application in response to that. So staff finds that the history of the building regarding that building evolution has been sufficiently addressed. The portal enclosure is no longer proposed, so no exception will be required. And the proposed signage complies with section 14-8.10H, which includes backlit signage as well as materials and the like. And that concludes the staff presentation.
Thank you, Heather. Board members, any clarification questions for Heather? Member Guida.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Heather, so no exceptions are being considered tonight?
Chair Rios, member Guida, that is correct.
Thank you.
Anything else? Thank you, Heather. Will the applicant please come forward and get sworn in?
Okay, can you raise your right hand? Do you solemnly declare and affirm that the testimony that you have in reference to this item shall be the truth and nothing but the truth? And do this under the penalties of perjury?
I do.
Can you state your name and?
Kevin Michael Skelly,
You also address, sorry.
10 Calle Cantando, San Fe, 7508.
Thank you.
Good evening, sir. You have the floor, and tell us what you want for us to know about your project.
Actually, this is like our third trip here. I don't have anything additional to add, other than it's a pretty homogenized version of the original, which I thought was really beautiful. But it is what it is, and we'll comply with each board and do it. And I think this is a good substitution.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? In reference to what is being proposed? Nothing? Yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I guess I just have some comments about materials still. When I'm looking at one of the changes that's noted is a 3'6" overhang, cantilevered overhang over the entrance. And the way I read the code is that even in historic transition districts, that cantilevers are not allowed. And then I would also, I guess, just question the fence material. The code in the transition district says that wrought iron is really the only metal that can be used for a fence material. I do see you have a rusted steel here, which I think is better finish wise than some of the other routes, but those right now, I guess, would be my concerns in terms of materials, similarly perhaps the steel trellis. But I don't know if you want to speak to the cantilevered overhang or if staff has thoughts on that, or if there have been any conversations in the background about that portion.
I think, that cantilever is very prevalent in that neighborhood. So we will have to put it in. And the steel fencing, you find that in the neighborhood as well. So I didn't see any objections.
Any other questions or comments or concerns? Anyone from the audience wishing to comment in reference to this particular case? It appears not. Anyone on Zoom?
No, Chair Rios.
Then I will entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion.
Yes, you have the floor.
Case, 2022-006-360 HDRB 502 Cerritos Road. I move that the board, approve the project as submitted tonight, noting that the proposed enclosure of the post office has been removed from the design, noting that no exception is required for signage because of this code. Requiring that the applicant simply update HPD staff with an updated floor plan, which is not represented in the packet tonight.
Is there a second to this motion?
Each have a second.
Roll call vote, please.
Vice Chair Guida,
Yes.
Member Benvenu,
Yes.
Member Bishai,
Yes.
Member Aguilar Nodrano,
No.
motion has been approved.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Brown.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. We'll move on to new business, and, the first case is looking at 135 Grant Avenue. This is Ramon's case. Ramon?
Good evening, Madam Chair and Board. I hope I look presentable because you're gonna see a lot of me tonight. This is, the O'Keefe Research Center at 135 Grant. And if it pleases the board, I'd like to present both the 135 Grant and 155 Grant consecutively, and then, have our applicants come up to respond to any questions. So the location is pretty obvious. It's the Bergier House. If you had an opportunity to review the Hickey, it's quite extensive and has a long history. It's one of the two remaining lieutenant's quarters from the old military base that was here. It dates to the 1870s. And let's go to slides here. So it has like some territorial aspects to it, but it was remodeled in 1926 with removing the hitch roof and creating a second floor that gave it a Pueblo revival style appearance. So the red arrows indicate the door replacements that the applicant is proposing. The doors are not historic, but they are wood. They are wood doors with divided lights. Well, the one to the south is divided light. The one to the east is a solid door. This is the west facade, so that's the one you would see from Grant Avenue. No work is going on here. This is the east facade, and you can see it in the green. That's the door that is to be replaced. That door takes you downstairs to the archives. And obviously they have some very valuable material down there. They want to replace these doors in order to make the hardware more compatible and more secure. This is actually the main entrance. The main entrance is not on the Grant elevation. This is the south facade. And you can see the two divided light doors to be replaced highlighted in green. That's the existing French door, the divided light door that's to be replaced, and the existing solid wood door to be replaced on the east. Let's jump to the next one. How do I get there? The 155 grant is also owned by the O'Keefe Foundation. And they have similar security concerns. That's why they were replacing the door that's to be installed on the east facade. That's the building right there. It's actually two different properties. The reason we broke this case into two is because they're actually separate. There's an alleyway between 135 grant and the 155 grant that has become problematic. There's people camping out there and doing things that people shouldn't be doing in alleyways. They're concerned about the security. This west elevation shows off of Grant where they would like to install a 6 foot high, well, approximately 6 foot high, wood flat gate. That's indicated by the arrow on the top. And the east elevation, you can see the door that they'd like to replace. So wood, divided light wood door. And in the background, you can see the location where you'd like to add another 6 foot high fence with a gate. Again, with flat painted white. North elevation's got nothing going on there. This is that south west corner where they would like to place the new gate. Here it is in the site plan, indicated by the arrows. The dashed red line, dashed red rectangle indicates the location of the proposed new fencing gate to the east side. And the far background, you can see that it says 3 foot gate location. That's the one that's to the west. Here is that elevation. Now we're on the east side. This fence doesn't require a height exception because it's set back more than 20 feet from the right of way. The gate on the east requires a height exception because of its proximity to the streetscape. I've gone over this with our applicant and they conceded a couple points that I think make it more acceptable to the staff. And that includes setting the fence back a bit, 6, 8, 12 inches maybe, and lowering the height a little bit so it's not flush with the top of the yard wall that's to the south. That's the existing gate or existing fence at 135 and the pickets and the color of that. So do you have any questions for me on this?
Ramon, on 135, are either of the doors that are being proposed to be changed located in a part of the historic building or non-historic?
Well, it's a significant structure, so, and I don't know the exact sequencing of how it was put together, but it was our determination that neither of those doors that are to be replaced belong to the historic nature of the original Berger house.
Thank you. And would you also talk to us about the public visibility of these doors?
The public is welcome to view the garden that's to the south during operational
From
hours.
a public way.
They're not very visible, no, not visible. I'd also like to say that let me get this right. Staff finds all the exception criteria has been met and recommends the approval of the applications as they comply with 14-5.2D general design standards and all its districts and 14.5.2E downtown and east side.
Board members, any questions in reference to either one of these cases, at 135 Grant or 155 Grant? Yes, for the
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Ramon,
Was an allowable wall height calculated for the gates? Not that thing.
Yes, well, for the west gate, it's 4 feet. For the east gate, it can be up to 6, actually 8 feet, I think.
Are all the below the allowable height?
The one to the west is proposed to be 6 inches, 6 to 12 inches lower than the existing sidewall. This borders the property between 155 and 135.
Is that subject to the allowable height or not?
That's why they're seeking an exception on this right.
Okay, thank you. And then the door on 200 West Marcy, is that divided lights?
Yes,
It's still not exactly what's there, except will be different material.
that's correct.
Thank you.
We'll let the applicant expand further on that. But the profile and divided lights will be the same.
Member of the
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a quick clarification. The two doors on the east side are very visible from the public right of way. One's right along the street. And then the other one, it just has that pretty short vehicular gate. But I think you can easily see over.
Correct.
So yeah, it's just the one on the south side that I don't think is.
But it is open to the public to view the gardens during working hours.
Any other questions? Member Bennett?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So just to, again, clarifying, the allowable height of the gate on the, for the west gate is 4 feet. And they're, I think you said they're requesting 5'6", but the applicant letter, it's 6 feet.
And I recommended that they go to 5'6" so that it has some visual interest, and it's not directly at the end of that yard, that site, south yard wall.
Do you think their applications could modify them to go with 5'6" inches?
I will let the applicant respond to that.
Okay. And there's no exception needed for the east gate.
Correct.
Okay. The doors that are proposed to be replaced, do we think any of them are historic? By historic, I mean, over 50 years of age.
In staff's opinion, no.
So is there any exception needed for their replacement in the material not in kind?
Because it's a significant structure, and Heather might be able to help me with this. If it's a differing material, it needs to be approved.
Anything further?
No, thank you.
Will the applicant or applicants please come forward and get sworn in emergency meeting?
Good evening. My name is Woody Bowden. I'm with a contractor that the museum representative is working with. Sorry.
Let me swear you in. Can you raise your right hand? Do you solemnly declare and affirm that the testimony you have in reference to this item shall be the truth and nothing but the truth, and do this under the penalties of perjury?
Yes.
Please state your name and your address.
Woody Bowden. My address is 432 Baton Drive Southwest, Virginia, Mexico, 87121.
Thank you. You have the floor, and you can go ahead and tell us, is the other gentleman you need to speak as well?
My name is Paul Ward. I'm the facility and safety manager for the Georgia O'Keeffe.
Can you raise your right hand? Do you solemnly declare and affirm that the testimony you have in reference to this item shall be the truth and nothing but the truth, and do this under the penalties of perjury?
I do.
And can you just restate your name and address for the record?
Sure. My name is Paul Ward. Again, I'm the facility and safety manager of the Georgia O'Keeffe. I live at 709 Viento Drive, Unit B in Santa Fe.
Thank you very much.
You want me to?
If you have anything further to add to what staff just told us, and we will do that at this time, or if you want to just answer questions.
No, I don't have anything to add.
Board members, do you have any further questions? for the applicant. Member Rita.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So just a quick question about the fenestration of the doors. I understand from the application of the presentation that for 155 grand, the new aluminum storefront door will have divided lights, or at least simulate divided lights.
Correct.
In white pattern. For the 135 project, the two doors that we're talking about, will those be a single light or will those be divided lights?
There will be divided lights also.
Okay. And do we have a drawing showing the pattern?
No, not with me. Since we haven't gone into submittal process, since we were trying to get it up by the board first, so there's no schematics at this time.
But for the 155, thank you, Madam Chair, it's like a 2x5. Yeah. Lights and.
Yeah, we would
Scheme to be appropriate for the other building as well.
Yeah, the measurements will match exactly what's there now.
Okay, thank you for clarifying.
Yes, Member Design.
Thank you, Madam Chair. On the door on the east side at 135, that one is a solid wood door currently. Can you give us a description of what the new aluminum door would look like? I'm assuming it would just be a solid, I know, hollow metal.
Hollow, yeah, we would do solid hollow metal, and we would match the color that is there now.
Okay, yeah, so just a single plane on the
Mhm.
front. Okay, and have there, I think there was some mention, maybe some conversations about you guys being open to wood. Is that still a possibility?
Yeah, that's still a possibility. Actually, the museum is working on upgrading their security system, their access control for those doors. Right now there's, electric strikes. That's what's, we're wanting to propose hollow metal because the wood is deteriorating and it's kind of failing the wood strike, you know, you can just pull on it really hard and open it up.
Don't say that.
Well,
Wood door would fit that. I don't think any of us, have an issue getting rid of the existing door, but a new wood door would fix that issue as well.
Yeah.
right? Okay, thank you.
Anything else, board members? Anyone from the public wishing to comment? Come forward, please.
You solemnly declare and affirm that the testimony you have in reference to this item shall be the truth and nothing but the truth, and do this under the penalties of perjury?
Yes.
Can you take your name and address for the record?
Richard Martinez, 1524 Paseo Plaza. I just have a question. I thought that the height for is only for yard walls, not for gates. Because gates have to be maybe sized for the human rather than the wall itself. If this is just a gate, no wall, I don't see that there have to be an exception to make it as tall as they propose. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. Anyone else wishing to comment? Yes. Please.
I just wanted to state that this whole project came about when I came on as the facility and safety manager, and the two doors at the research center is the issue is that if you do pull hard on them, the door had to be hollowed out to make the strike work. Our first choice would be to go with the metal doors because they are stronger and more durable, and with the amount of artwork that is in the archives, security is the utmost importance of the building. It's the first thing I noticed when I came on board, is that we did have a potential security breach in the building. We are open to going with the wood doors. That wouldn't be our first choice, but with the new systems that we are looking to put in place, we are able to make it work. But if we were to go with metal, our first and foremost is that we tasked Bradbury with is the metal doors have to look exactly the same as the doors that are on the building. Because that's really important for us as well, is to keep the building looking as its original historic value that there is. So that's the importance of that. The wood doors, especially the solid wood door that we have, on the east side of that building. The issues that we have is that where that door is, those are the stairwells. It's right in the stairwell that goes down into the vault. And where the archive is and where they restore the artwork. Because it's wood, it does expand and contract in the seasons. And so like during the monsoon season, the door itself closes very hard. I mean, you have to really kind of throw your shoulder in it to get the door to latch and seal. Over the years, they tried to shave the door, tried to make it work. And of course, during the winter months, okay, you can see daylight through the doors. And so then we have the air flow coming in and dirt coming in, which is another issue that we have with the environmental requirements that we have for that building, with it having to be 70 degrees and 50% relative humidity year round to preserve the artwork. So that's why I recommended to our leadership team that we, go with metal, but then we tasked Bradbury that, it has to be, we'll custom make these doors to make it look like it does right now. And with regards to the alleyway, the last thing I really want to do is spend money on that alleyway, but we do have a problem, a safety problem with people experiencing homelessness, and we've got the drug paraphernalia, human feces, and now we're having syringes and stuff in that alleyway. And so we definitely need to come up with some type of solution, and we're looking to make it as look as good as it can, match the research center to the next of it. And that's why we went with the picket fence. We wanted to match that. And we just want to make sure that the staff and the public are safe on that.
Thank you, Mr. Wong.
Okay, thank you.
Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly declare and affirm that the testimony you have in reference to this item shall be the truth and nothing but the truth, and do this under the penalties of perjury? Thank you. Can you state your name and address for the record?
My name is Raymond Herrera, 279 Hillside Avenue. I've missed you guys.
Well, we've missed you.
My concern with the Bergier house is that it's the last remaining piece of history that we have in Santa Fe. And I object, or really am concerned about any changes that are being made to the house itself, whether it's the doors or whatever. If anything that should change the character of the house will be a disaster for the community. Look what happened with the Lanham Museum. It was supposed to be a simple structure. We destroyed part of Santa Fe by what was built there. And it ended up being a monstrosity. That's in my opinion. Anyway, I've been familiar with the Bergier house since I was a kid. And that's been quite a few years. When the Bergiers lived there, Mrs. Brown was one of the Bergiers, and then there were others. And I was familiar with it when we moved out of there. So to me, that house is really important, and it's one of the jewels of that area. And if we start allowing any changes to it, whether it's a door or whatever, that with as many buildings as they're acquiring at this point, security and all that stuff can be rearranged into the other buildings to accommodate whatever is being stored there or whatever. The Bergier house to be left alone as a home, not as a home, but a business, and used for the museum, but left alone structurally. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Woodring. Anyone else wishing to comment in reference to this particular case? It appears there are no further comments. Anyone on Zoom?
Yes, Chair Rios, John Eddy would like to speak. John, you should be able to unmute. Please state your name and address for the record and be sworn.
Thank you. My name is John Eddy. My address is number 14 Avenida Campo Verde, Santa Fe, 87506. Hello to Mr. Herrera. It's been too long that I have not seen him. First thing I wanted to bring up, Madam Chair, is watching from Zoom, we are at a bit of a disadvantage because we don't get to see the PowerPoint presented by staff. So I'm simply looking at the packet, and that's okay. She doesn't have to answer me right now. That's okay. I just wanted to point that out. But on the packet, we're looking at a fence and gate location facing the east in the alleyway. And
John?
that's a, sorry.
John, can you hear us? You need to get sworn in.
Oh. I'm sorry. I'm ready.
Okay, Mr. Eddy, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Can you raise your right hand?
Yes, I can.
And do you solemnly declare and affirm that the testimony you have in reference to this item shall be the truth and nothing but the truth, and do this under the penalties of perjury?
Yes, I do.
Can you state your name?
My name is John Eddy. My address is number 14 Avenida Campo Verde, Santa Fe, 87506.
Okay, John, now you have the floor. Tell us what you want.
Okay, thank you. I would reiterate that if you're watching on Zoom, we're at a bit of a disadvantage in that we cannot see the PowerPoint that staff is presenting to you in situ there. I don't know if this is something that can get sorted out or not. Having said that, there is a gate and fence located facing the east on that alleyway. Now, I completely am sympathetic with the ideas of security that these folks are dealing with, because I have personally witnessed people transecting town, jumping over whatever walls are there, and there is no security in town anymore. So I appreciate that. But I do wonder, the delineation of this fence and gate location in the packet is simply dotted out with red dots. I don't know that that is an accurate representation of what 13 feet looks like in that location. And because I'm not watching the packet that staff is presenting, I'm not able to see the design of that fence. But I do think that 13 feet is a pretty challenging thing to approve in that spot. Thank you, Madam Chair, board members.
Thank you very much. Any comments, Ramon or?
The 13 feet was first in a width of the
No.
fence and not the height.
No, John, did you hear? I hope you heard that. 13 feet refers to the width. not-
Yes, I did hear that, Madam Chair, and that does make quite a difference. What is the height of that gate and wall location?
6 feet.
6 feet. Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate the time.
Okay, anyone else on Zoom?
No, Charvios.
Thank you. I will entertain a motion.
Chair, just a clarification question for staff and for the applicant. So you clarified earlier that the door for 155 is going to be a Conair aluminum storefront door with divided lights. For 135, there's been some discussion both ways, and again, the project's a bit underrepresented in terms of drawings and what's proposed. The narrative in the first couple pages of the 135 packet says that the doors will be aluminum clad wood doors. I want to make sure that that's what we're approving tonight and not some, maybe this, maybe that. So Ramon, can you clarify what were you actually proposing?
That is correct. Both will be the aluminum flat doors.
Aluminum clad wood doors.
No, it will just be aluminum doors.
Okay, so that's an important distinction, because the application for the packet for 135 indicates that here we're replacing the existing wood entrance doors on the south facade with aluminum clad wood doors to match the existing profile and painted to match the existing coloring, or matching with the integral color. And then for two, for security reasons, the existing wood door on the east facade will be an aluminum clad wood door to match existing profile and paint to match existing. I know what an aluminum clad wood door looks like. It emulates the detailing of wood doors very clearly, but the skin of the door is aluminum, not the structure of the door. So what's being proposed here?
So on the main entrance, no, I'm sorry, it's on the corner. The south one would be,
Excuse me, when you're talking, give us the address, 135 or 155?
that would be 135. So the southward doors would be the aluminum frames, and the east door would be hollow metal, solid hollow metal.
Okay, so you're proposing for the south doors, aluminum storefronts, similar to what you were, same as what you're proposing for 155.
Correct.
And for replacement of the solid wood door, you're proposing a steel door, painted steel door,
Correct.
and steel frame.
Correct.
Okay, I mean, very different things than what the packet is saying. And my frustration is that additionally, we don't have drawings. And there aren't great representations here for the board to make a valid determination of what's appropriate here. A steel door is a plain face steel door, and it's got a roll of paint on it, right? And an aluminum storefront door looks like a commercial door. A aluminum clad wood door is not. It looks like a traditional wood door, which just happens to have aluminum skin. So I don't know that, you know, personally, I'm in a position to approve those things tonight. You know, I think for the 155 case, I'd be happy to approve the fences and the aluminum door for that building. I think those are appropriate for the building. I would recommend for 135, if the applicant is open to it, that is to move this case forward in one case of 135, that we pursue what's written in the packet, which is a wood door with aluminum cladding on it, not an aluminum storefront door, and not a steel door and frame. Those are things that I would think I can approve tonight. And if there needs to be a change, then we come back to the board or to staff.
Sounds good. We can evaluate, because I know we have if it's gonna be wood, we can always just use the wood instead of just putting the aluminum clad.
Is that acceptable to the museum?
Yeah, we're fine with what is on the application.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Okay, board members, I will entertain a motion for 135 Grand Avenue.
I'd be happy to make that motion, Madam Chair.
Member Brito, you have the floor.
So case 2023-006-552 HDRB 135 Grant Avenue, I move that the board approve the project as submitted, noting that the exception criteria have been met and in agreement with staff's evaluation, and noting that the south pair of doors will be aluminum clad wood doors with divided light patterns to match the existing profile, and that the east door will be an aluminum clad wood door with detailing to match the existing door. That includes the grooves in the doors and the central panel. And that the applicant will complete drawings and product spec and submit it to staff for final approval.
What, your second?
In Ms. Seconds.
Roll call vote, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Vice Chair Guido,
Yes.
Member Benvenue,
Yes.
Member Boucher,
Yes.
Member Aguilar Madonna,
Yes.
motion is passed. Thank you.
I will now entertain the motion for 155 Grand Avenue. Member Boucher?
May I ask a clarifying question? I think there's two fences, one is the east end, and one is the west end of the alley. Both are 5'6" in height. Is that correct? I keep hearing both 6 feet and 5'6" mentioned.
No, we propose 6 feet. I know there was a concern on the west one, the closer one to the street, that it was gonna be at the level or higher than that. partition wall that separates the 155 and 135. But when we took measurements, the 6 feet is still well below the wall height. The wall is like 7 feet, 7'5".
So you, sorry, the application you're making is for 6 feet,
Correct.
so the staff report suggests that it's 5 foot 6 inches.
And we can do that also. We can do a total 5, 6.
And that, yeah, I guess along the lines of what Member Guido was mentioning, that it's difficult to approve because of some of the detail of the way the fences look in playing with the elevations. And if Member Guido, were you thinking we should postpone for some drawings or?
I think this case is a little bit easier after the applicant accepted the recommendations in the last one. I'd take a pass if you wanted to, but if you want to make a motion.
No, go ahead.
happy to.
Thank you.
So case 06758 HDRB 155 Grant Avenue. I move that the board approve the following items. The replacement of the wood door at 200 West Marcy with an aluminum storefront door that has divided light patterns, 2 wide by 5 tall, and white finish is proposed. That the board also approved the 2 6-foot picket fences to be erected in the alley. And those may include a gate, but the gate will be of the same style as the picket fence. And noting that those 6-foot fences are set back from the streetscape and do not require an exception for height. And then thirdly, that the board approved the construction of a 5-foot 6-inch high gate on the east side, west side. And noting that the exception criteria for the height, for exceeding the height limitation for that has been met.
Is there a second?
In the seconds.
Guys, this is a friendly amendment. On the picket fence, if the 2 steel frame will be painted to match, which I believe is also staff's recommendation.
Accepted as granted.
Yes. And encourage, yeah.
I will just add that the application update the drawings similar to the other application that staff has a record of the door, the fences, as proposed.
And that's another friendly amendment, that, for staff recommendation, I'd like to suggest that both the new fences and gates stand free of 155 grams.
Accepted as friendly.
Anything else? Any other amendments? Yes.
Chair Rios, I did just want to bring to the board's attention that the exceptions required on this one are actually going to be the 6 factors or 6 listed exceptions found in and I apologize, it takes a little while to get there, and 14-5.2 C with the C5C. Since this is a height of the fence. And so if it's the same 3, but there's an additional 3, are due to special conditions and circumstances which are peculiar to the land or structure involved and which are not applicable to other lands or structures in the related streetscape. Are due to special conditions and circumstances which are not a result of actions of applicant and provide the least negative impact with respect to the purpose of this section. As set forth in section subsection 14-5.2A1.
That's the requirement for the board finds that those criteria, those additional criteria have been met.
Who was the second? Do you agree with that?
Yes.
Roll call vote, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Vice Chair Guido?
Yes.
Member Benjamin?
Yes.
Member Bishop?
Yeah.
Member Aguilar-McDonald? Yes. Motion has passed.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you.
Uh, we'll move on to case, the case located at 230C Rodriguez. This is Ramon's case, but I see Langley up there. I'm just driving the computer home.
Madam Chair, members of the board, this is 230C Rodriguez Street. It's a single family residence, 2-story. It has not been surveyed. There's no hit beyond. It was constructed in the 1990s, or at least actually 1990. The applicant proposes to add I don't have the square footage right in front of me, but it's, I think in the range of 150 square foot bedroom, enlarge the bedroom that's to the southeast elevation. It's not visible from the public. So that's outlined in, the addition is outlined in red on this next slide diagram. This is the existing proposed addition and floor plan. So they propose to demolish those two walls and enlarge the bedroom area. The height would match the adjacent parapets, which is under the maximum height. And I'll let the applicant answer that. I think it's 10'3" is the height of those parapets. New windows without divided lights. None of the existing windows have divided lights, and because it's not visible from the public and not contributing unsurveyed, this is allowable. This is the southeast elevation showing the double door. Photographs of the north and west elevations. Photograph showing the location of the proposed addition, so it could be behind the tree that you see in the top photo, and behind the fence that you see on the lower photo. Now you can see the location more clearly on the southeast elevations. Do you have any questions regarding this case?
Any questions? Never read
Well, now what is the material for the windows and sliding doors that's proposed?
There's the Madam Chair and Member Leo. They're proposed to match the existing, which are light aluminum clad windows.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Applicants or applicants, please come forward and get sworn in.
Do you solemnly declare and affirm that the testimony you have with reference to this item shall be the truth and nothing but the truth? And do this under penalties of perjury?
I do.
Please state your name and address for the record. Thank you.
Jutan, 1219 Saratoga Road, Santa Fe, New Mexico, 7501.
Good evening. What do you have to add?
I don't really have anything to add.
Well, let's see if you have any more questions. Any other questions or comments? It appears not. Anyone from the public wishing to comment on this case? It appears not. And anyone on Zoom?
No, Chair Rios.
Then I will entertain the motion.
Madam Chair. In case number 202300666 HDRB 230C Rodriguez Street, I move to approve the application as submitted.
We will second, noting that the windows will be white finished aluminum to not be existing.
That's it, friendly.
Thank you.
Roll call vote, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Vice Chair Guido?
Yes,
Member Benvenuto?
Yes.
Member Bishop? Yes. Member Aguilar Madrono? Yes. Motion has passed.
Thank you. Oh, there's the other. Thank you. Next case is located in 11 47.5 from the Sonic Hospital. And Aladdin, you have the floor. And this is Aladdin's first.
Good evening, Chair Rios and board members. This is case 2022-5832 for 1147 and Camino San Ocasio, located in the downtown and east side historic district. The property is surrounded by other properties and does not have street frontage. Access to the property is from Camino San Ocasio along a private egress easement across a neighboring lot. Staff recommends approval of the proposed project and finds that the application complies with section 14-5.2B, the general design standards for all historic districts, and 14-5.2B, downtown and east side design standards. The structure at 1147 Camino San Ocasio is a single family residence listed as non-contributing to the downtown and east side historic district. The residence has been through many different phases of construction and is part of what was once the invasive Leia family compound. The building was constructed in many phases from the 1920s through the 1980s. The structure is composed of two separate buildings that were joined with additions over time. While much of the building qualifies as being 50 years or older, changes and additions over time have erased the character of the original historic buildings. The current owner purchased the property in 1992 and constructed an addition on the east elevation, as well as renovated the detached storage building into an accessory dwelling unit in 2005. The Historic District Review Board reviewed the status of the residence. On March 14, 2023, under case 2023-6394, and retained the non-contributing status. The applicant now proposes the following exterior alteration to construct an 136 square foot addition on the south elevation of the residence to a height of 20 feet and 11 inches to match the existing height of the structure. Windows on the addition will be wood with white metal cladding. The overhang of the door of the addition will have wooden brackets and be stained. They're planning to replace the non-historic sliding windows on the west elevation to the south of the addition with double hung wood clad windows. And the stucco will be array cemented with coconut to reach the existing. Looking at the site plan, the work is at the lower left of the image. This is the only area of work at this time. The existing entry is slightly smaller than the planned addition. The addition will include an entry and a staircase that will lead to the second floor. The previous stairway was exterior and is no longer existing. The window that will be changed out is the window just south of the addition in the west wall. Only the portion of the addition with the staircase will reach the second floor, creating a step down on the addition. There are no changes proposed on the north facade. In the east facade, you'll notice the addition is in the rear in the middle of the image. On the west facade, you can see the addition and the center mass. The addition is located on the south facade. This elevation shows the step down of the addition where the staircase section meets the new entry section of the addition. From the driveway, only the top portion of the building is visible. This is due to the grade difference which creates the courtyard in the photo. The finishes for the addition match those existing in the non-conforming. In summation, case 2022-5832 for 1147 and a half Camino San Ocasio is for a 136 square foot addition with window replacement on a non-contributing two-story residence in the downtown and east side historic district, and staff recommends approval.
Thank you very much, Lonnie. Any questions for Lonnie?
Thank you, Lanny, for the very, very thorough presentation. It's very clear. Just one point, or one question I had. You said that the exterior stair no longer exists, but we're seeing an exterior stair in the elevation drawings. Is it gone? Is it supposed to be gone?
It's still there.
Still there?
So I'm sorry, I misunderstood, oh, sorry.
Okay, and we can ask the applicant if it's proposed to be removed or not. Thank you.
Good question, because that. Any other questions? If not, applicant, please come forward and get sworn in.
Can you raise your right hand? Do you solemnly declare and affirm that the testimony you have in reference to this item shall be the truth and nothing but the truth, and do this under the penalties of perjury? And can you state your name and address for the record?
Will McDonald, 488 Arroyo Tenorios.
Good evening, Will.
Hello, board, good to see you, Chair Rios. Nice to meet you. First thing I want to say is how pleased I am that we have Madam McCullough as part of this staff. We've worked with her for years in historic and other places, and she has skill and she makes things happen. And I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Lenny, you did do the job. You had your first case before.
A couple of points. Member Guida, you're right that the exterior stair is still there. It's still, there's actually, if you look at the stair that's you see in the photo here, you can actually get up to the second floor that way. So there's two exterior means to get to the second floor, but no interior means to that. The original stair was one of those miracle staircases that I mean, miracle if you survived that, and so it had been removed even before the present moment. So really the purpose, the whole purpose of this addition is provide an interior access to the second floor.
Right, and well, if you look at your east elevation, I see the stair in the photo that's on the south elevation. On the east elevation, there's still an exterior stair shown.
Yes, on the east elevation, well, you see, there on the south, you see it?
Yeah.
There on the, north.
It says on the drawings, this is the.
That's the east, yes, and so you're seeing that exterior stair,
Is that remaining?
that's remaining,
Okay, so no change to that.
no change to that.
Okay, thank you for clarifying.
Anything else? No.
Nothing more that I had to add, just that we, in doing this, hope to, provide a little bit more character to the bit of this building that you do see.
Any questions for you? Member Pilar.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will. I know it was stated that the color of the stucco will match the existing, will the texture also match?
Yes, it's really throughout, so the texture, which I don't particularly love either, sorry, George. But it will match.
Thank you. Any other questions? Anyone from the audience wishing to comment on this particular case? No one. Anyone on Zoom?
No, Chair Rios.
No one on Zoom. One will entertain a motion, please, for Member Penny.
Sure, why not? Thank you, Madam Chair. In case number 2022-005-832, HDRB 1147 and 1/2, Community San Mateo. I move to approve the application as submitted, noting that the applicant has indicated that the stucco and new structure will match the existing.
We will second.
Roll call, vote, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Vice Chair Frida,
Yes.
Member Benvenu,
Yes.
Member Bichette,
Yes.
Member Aguilar Madonna.
Yes.
Motion is passed. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Will. Thank you, Lenny. Our next case is Ramon's, and it's at 6358 West Seventh Street.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair, case numbers. 2003. 6743, 635 A West San Francisco. It's a contributing building in the West Side Guadalupe District. And you'll be familiar with this as we did primary elevations at one of our recent hearings. This is the location. It's actually part of a duplex. And at the last hearing, it was determined that the south facade will be designated as primary. The south elevation shown here, the applicant is proposing to reconfigure the yard walls to a height of 6 feet and add a 72 square foot per tall to the east facade. On your right in the lower photograph, you can see the entrance to the adjacent duplex unit, which is 635 feet. This is the site plan indicating the reconfigured site walls on the right and the proposed portal. And the left is the existing site plan. On the upper part of this slide is the existing elevation, and the lower shows the additional portal and the new reconfigured sidewalk. The east facade with the existing on the top, it's got a coyote fence on top of a 4-foot stucco block wall, and they're proposing stucco 6-foot high yard walls. It will give that some more privacy, separating the unit in the back from the unit up front. The lower elevation shows the proposed portal. The south facade, which is what you would see from West San Francisco Street. The site walls actually sit. Let's see, I'll let the applicant give you the exact dimension of that, but they're considered, well, that is probably about 20, more than 20 feet. The proposed west, that's actually east elevation. I guess I'm missing a little bit. There's really no detail of fenestration on the west elevation on the upper sketch, but on the lower sketch shows you the east facade without the air walls, and more clear detail of the portal design. Stucco colors would be to match existing brick pavers, and the portal would be the wood portions of the portal would be painted white. That I'll entertain any questions that you have.
Any questions for Ramon for another system? Applicant? I think that Richard has already been sworn in.
Yes, thank you. As you know, this is a very small house. It's like 818 square feet, and it's adobe. So you can imagine how much of the space that the walls take up. We're trying to provide a private outdoor roofed area, which this doesn't have. There's no roofed area. And this door is actually out of the bedroom, but it's the best we can do. And we're, the portal is set back from the street behind the parking area. And so it's more than 20 feet from the front. And also, it is, we're making it as large, we're making the fence, we're replacing the east part and the south part of the fence, the ones that are not on the parking area, to make that, we're replacing the wall to make it as large a private area as possible, given the existing easement areas for the neighbor to enter their house. I'm also planning that those walls would be completely stucco. They wouldn't have brick detail, because the brick detail doesn't seem to me to be in keeping with the territorial design, which is very, very fine on the existing structure itself. And the brick detail on the fences is just I would say dated, this 90s sort of thing. And so I'm proposing that the portal would have that brick coping to actually match the house, but the yard wall would be all a stucco wall. Is that any questions? Thank you.
Any questions for Richard? No questions. Anyone in the audience wishing to comment on this project? No one? And anyone on Zoom?
No, Chair Rios.
So I will entertain a motion. Let you run the drawing. Oh, yes?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Richard, your drawings are always so clean and easy to understand, so
Thank
it's
you.
always very appreciated, and thank you. And case number 2023-006743 HDRB at 635A West San Francisco Street, I move to approve the application as submitted.
Will you hear a second?
We have a second?
Any amendments? None? Roll call vote, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Vice Chair Guida,
Yes.
Member Benvenu,
Yes.
Member Jennifer Risha,
Yes.
Member Aguilar Najama,
Yes.
motion has passed.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Richard.
Thank you.
Good luck. And we hear the last case this evening is located at 529 East Palace, it's Ramones.
Madam Chair, I hope we have the opportunity to take a look at the pick fee that was created for this project. It's a fascinating and I think beautiful old structure. It is contributing to the downtown east side historic district. And the purpose of this here, or the applicant would like to seek primary facade designations for a remodel that will be coming in shortly. Here's the location on East Palace, highlighted in red. This is the my directions right, north facade.
Was that the north facade?
Yeah. Yes. That stairway that you see there has been demolished. It was in unsafe condition. This is, as I understand, maybe the area that they would like to do a remodel on in the future. This is the street facing facade, which staff recommends to be considered as primary. This is kind of the south. You can see a little bit of the east corner of the building. It was constructed around the turn of the century, I think 1910 or somewhere around there. And it still holds all of its historical integrity and significance. To the right of this elevation, you can see a bump out that was added in the 70s and 80s in addition to the kitchen area, dining area. And this is the west facade, and you can see a similar bump out that's kind of highlighted by those the shingle appearance of both those facades. So there's some interesting windows right here that I think were added in the 70s. They're outlined in detail in the AP report. So this is the facade diagram indicating staff's recommendation for primary facades, and that would be facades number 1, 2, and 10. So the south facade a portion of the east facade and a portion of the west facade extending up to the bump outs that were added in the 70s. And I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions for Ramon at this time? Yes,
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a clarification to point out, I believe there's a typo on the staff recommendation in our report. The west isn't named, it's just says east twice, so one of us makes the motion, just be clear that your recommendation is south, east, and the west, of the new addition.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Thank you for pointing that out, and Member Benvenu.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I'm generally in agreement with your recommendations, but it seems to me that it would, from my point of view, it would be appropriate to exclude the dormer windows, since they were built no earlier than 1973. They had a lot of dramatic, I think, falsification of the original building. What are your thoughts on that?
I debated on that, but I think they add such a unique character to this facade that they should be included, but I can understand entirely if they were excluded from the primary facade designation.
Well, they certainly add, they certainly add to a character, it's not a false character.
That's true.
It gives a very, when I read that was the case, it completely changed my perception of this building. And then that would, I'm wondering if that applies to that stained glass window as well. It's a very beautiful window, but it looks like it might also be a 70s edition.
Correct. It dates from the 70s. Yeah.
Okay.
Or there's two of them, they're matching there on that.
On that same facade.
Yeah, let's go back and see if I can picture of that. There they are.
Yeah, I see. Correct. So again, I think that that's a false history in my view, even though they're attractive.
Understood.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Ramon, what is the architectural style of this building?
That's a good question. I believe I defined it in your staff reports and I forgot the exact verbiage that I put on there. I think it was bungalow with craftsman elements.
Thank you. Any other questions for Ramon at this point? No? Applicant? Applicant or applicant, please come forward.
Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly declare and affirm that the testimony you have in reference to this item shall be the truth and nothing but the truth, and do this under the penalties of perjury?
Yes.
And can you state your name and address for the record?
My name is Scott Terry, and my address is 2351 Fox Road, Santa Fe, New Mexico. It's a 507.
Mr. Cherry, good evening. What do you have to tell us? Do you agree that this is a bungalow style building, or do you have a more precise?
It might be Craftsman Bungalow and not Bungalow Craftsman. So. But yes, I do agree.
Okay. And what do you have to tell us? Do you agree with the recommendation or simply going for primary facade tonight?
I do. With member Benvenue's comments, I agree with those as well. I think that the dormers and stained glass are a false representation of the original historic nature of the structure, although very interesting, very beautiful. But yeah, I agree with everything thus far.
Let's see if they have any questions. Any questions or comments? No? Anyone in the audience wishing to comment? No one? Anyone on Zoom?
Yeah, Chair, yes.
No? Motion, please.
I'll make a motion. Case 2023-006744 HDRB 529 East Palace Avenue. I move that the board retain structures status as contributing and designate the south facade, number one on the facade diagram, as primary, and the portions of the east and west facades, and west being portion of the west being number 2, portion of the east being number 10, as designated by staff as also primary. And noting that the stained glass windows on the west facade, 2 stained glass windows on the west facade are non-historic. And that the dormers on the south facade are also non-historic.
Is there a second to this motion?
Besides, I second, and maybe also just a friendly amendment that we designate the ticket fence in the front of the south facade as non-contributing, as recommended by staff.
Except for this friendly.
Sorry, was that recommended by staff or the HP? That's likely non-historic.
It's a great idea. Accepted.
Any other amendments? None being, repeatable.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Vice Chair Rios?
I'm
Vice Chair Guida?
Yes.
Member Benjamin?
Yes.
Member Bishop?
Yes.
Member Aguilar Madrono?
Yes.
Motion has been approved. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's good to see you.
Nice to see all of you. Thank you everyone in the audience for being here, and we'll move on. That was the end of the cases. Anything under discussion items? Yeah.
Chair Rios, no.
And, matters from the board? Anybody? None? And our next meeting will be on June the 13th. And I will entertain a motion for adjournment.
We move to adjourn.
Besides, second.
And roll call.
Thank you, Chair Rios. Member, Vice Chair Guida?
Yes.
Member Benjamin?
Yes.
Member Aguilar Madrono?
Yes.
Member Bishop?
Yes, thank you.
Member adjourned.
Thank you very much. That's approximately 7:13. That's pretty good. Pretty good record. Thank you all. Good night.
Yeah.